I'm happy to introduce Krista Granton. That pronounced?
Yep, you got it.
And you know, when I asked about insurance people, I think she was the only name that came up. From all of you.
Several times.
So
Highly respected.
figured she should be the one to talk to us. So she's gonna tell us about the state of the property insurance market and then respond to questions that you all may have. And if you have a question in the chat, just type it in the chat because Kylie's monitoring the chat and she'll make sure your question is addressed. Okay, Krista.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. So I think what everybody is already aware of the fact that the industry right now is very tough. I put a call into AAA this morning because I had a client over in Napa who I did a quote for yesterday because they couldn't get AAA, and she emailed me this morning and said that they had opened up again in that area. So I'm trying to find out what's going on. AAA is open. Farmers is closing down again a little bit. They've been pulled out. Foremost will do condo rental, but they won't do homes and rental properties. Travelers is open for certain areas. It has to be a fire line score of 2 and under. And they will only do the home if they do the auto and the umbrella as well. Packages, Safeco is only doing packages. American Modern is writing in certain areas. CSC is not writing Sonoma at all. So yeah, it's a tough.
How about
so
Allstate? They just canceled my commercial policy.
Allstate has been pulling out. So Allstate hasn't written Allstate paper on homes in a long time. They've been writing it through Pacific Specialty, who suck.
Yeah, well,
They're
this was,
bad
I've
at
had them for 40 years for my apartment complex and they canceled me.
Really?
And no claims ever.
How old is the building?
50 something.
And has it been
1950 something.
updated?
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't heard about it. I don't have a big link
Yeah,
in with
they just-
Allstate, but well, call me and I'll see what I can
Thank you.
find.
Let me know.
And State Farm's fine,
State Farm's not writing.
not running at all.
Nope.
No, they were the first.
I knew it was Allstate and State.
Well, this is interesting because I was having a conversation with a client who's buying a property up on Castle Road. And we were chatting and he said, well, I got a quote with State Farm. And I said, take it and run. Because I gave a client to State Farm who was up on Monticello Road. And I said, but keep my name and number because one of these days they're going to stop writing. They can't continue to do what they're doing. They were writing at reasonably priced policies in like up and down a day, ridiculous areas.
Right.
And an hour and a half later, he called me. He said, okay, they're pulling out. So if we can't find something that's reasonably priced these days, I did something out on Denmark for a $2.5 million home. It was $43,000 for Scottsdale. So the prices are really ridiculous. We can get a quote with the fair plan, but as you know, they only do 3 million total insurance value. So that's the home, the extended recovery coverage, the contents, the loss of use, all of that. 3
Who is
million
that?
total.
Which company?
The fair plan, the California fair plan. And then we write what's called a wraparound policy or differences in conditions,
So it's a 3 million cap.
3 million cap. So as we know around here, that's not much.
Yeah.
So we're looking into finding an excess liability or excess company over and above the fair plan to see if we can find that. So it's a tough margin at this stage of the game.
Is there any talk about what they're thinking about doing? I mean, you can't go on forever because lenders won't do a loan without
No,
insurance.
part of the issue in hand is that the insurance companies haven't had a rate increase approval in 2 to 3 years. And so that's why a lot of the companies stopped writing because they can't insure for the cost that they have, the premiums that they have now.
Right.
And the insurance commissioner is finally starting to let some of the rates increases come through.
Okay.
And I think in 6 months to a year, things will get better as the rate increases get approved, but then again, all the rates are gonna go up.
When you're talking about rate increases, you mean on existing policies?
As they come up for renewal, they'll have a rate increase, so it's gonna
Okay.
be a rate increase.
That's
across the
been
board.
restricted or?
Yeah, exactly.
But
Which
a
is
new
why
po-
some of
a
the
new
companies
poli-
stopped.
New policy, they can write about the pricing.
The new policies will have the current rates, but as the rate increases come through, they will get
Passed
it
on.
at the renewal.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, a $43,000 policy is not, That's not government.
Well, Scottsdale had about 150% rate increase after the 17 fires. And that's part of that, but if they get another rate increase, it'll be up from that as well. Yeah,
So what, is there a, you know, an average, a percentage that we can all look forward to or not, as far as our.
most of the times insurance companies ask for rate increases of about 6.9%.
Okay.
Some of them are getting 35%.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we just tell, with the realtors that we talk to, if you get in contract, give us a call. We'll need the client's name and date of birth and the information on the house, and we can at least run it and see if it's an area that is writable, or if it's gonna have to go fair plan. To get a fair plan quote, we have to have photos of every side of the house along with a photo of the address, and it takes 5 to 7 days to get a quote back from them. We can do a rough quote in the system to give you an idea of what the cost will be, along with the wraparound policy. So, but
And is the state the insurance company in the fair play?
yes.
So that they're underwriting the losses that there are.
The, yeah, and there, I was working on a property on First Street East, commercial, and they, in addition to the photos which we sent in, then they came back and said, well, we need the diagrams, so they did diagram out everything, they're just being very, very picky. And they got slammed too, because all the companies that pulled out, then everybody went to the fair plan. So it's taking longer to get quotes, so if you're looking for a 3-day close, it's not gonna happen.
Exactly, that's all gonna change.
Yeah.
So the fair plan has the wraparound policy,
Correct,
and what is the purpose of the wraparound?
because the fair plan doesn't include liability, water damage, medical, theft. There's a bunch
So
of
it's
things. that-
additional coverage that you then get,
Exactly,
so that
It
two,
adds back
usually
to
two
the
different
coverage.
premiums,
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Because that's what I'm experiencing with you, is a lot of paper. And it doesn't usually identify which house it's for.
Which is strange, because normally they've been pretty good about putting that stuff together, but you and I are gonna be talking about
That's
this later.
exactly like letting it sort it out.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, and we're gonna have to get things requoted and
Yeah,
those are coming up, in addition to the new stuff, we're coming up with a lot of the non-renewals. So it's just, we talked about, we were super busy. Yeah.
I apologize if you've already covered this, but as far as areas go, like locally Sonoma Valley, you know, in the town type areas versus a Kenwood or a Glen Ellen or a Mayacamas, are there differentiations for the availability of insurance based on geographical areas? if that's about-
Absolutely. So if the whole area now is deemed a fire area, but there are certain areas that have a lesser fire line score, and like Temelac, Creekside area, areas in town, we can write. But if it's way to put it with Travelers or Safeco, if they'll write it, they have to have the whole package. They won't write just the home anymore. It has to be the home, auto, and umbrella.
Does that
Oh,
cover
that's
Boyd
nice.
Springs and El Verano or no?
Depends on the area. I have to put in the zip code, and it literally is like my house is over on off of Railroad,
Mhm.
and I'm with Travelers. And if I went to write it today, I wouldn't be approved. And it's not because of the fire line score, it's because of the earthquake area. Because they have, so it's just, they're in talks now with Palomar to take the earthquake off the table with
Yeah.
Travelers, so they don't have to offer it and can offshoot it with them, which would help open that up as well, which is a good thing.
You say fire line score, I'm not familiar with that term.
So each company has drawn their own lines, a fire line score, and what's acceptable to them and what isn't, and like on this place on First Street East that I was working on was 473 feet within what they would write. If it had been a little farther out, they wouldn't have written it.
And what does the score go from, 0 to 5 or
0 to 9.
9? And they want a two is very
Two and under,
safe and
two and
nine
under
to
is
work.
travelers, and each company has their own score of
Wow.
what they'll accept.
Wow.
So it's gotten to be very challenging,
Huh.
and then our rating system, which used to be the best thing, you put everything into the rating system, and they all comes up with X's now. So it takes longer to rate anything, because we have to do it manually in each company.
Wow.
So it's
So
not
it's-
just an easy breezy anymore.
It's not related to the high fire, or extreme fire rating that comes back on the natural
Yeah,
hazard
yeah.
reports. It's a whole separate system of ratings.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's standard to give a natural hazards report for purchases. And they have a rating of high or extreme fire rating. But that's not what the insurance companies go on. They have their own separate system,
They do,
and all the companies have different systems.
they do, just to make it more fun.
So there's no universal system that you can rely on, know ahead of time.
Give us a call, we'll put it in the system and see what's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I've been doing this 41 years, and this is the toughest I've ever seen it.
Who is still writing locally?
Travelers, Safeco, depending on the area. Bamboo, depending on the area. Hippo, depending on the area. So it really is just a matter of putting the information into the system
Yeah.
and finding out who will write it.
And if you've been canceled, more than likely you're in a bad area.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's hard to sell anyway. It's another
exactly.
factor.
And then, I had a client the other day who said she's with Travelers, and she sent me an email, said, my premium went up $500.
Run.
And you have to be nice. Yeah, I understand that.
Lucky you.
And certainly there's no other companies, right? She said, what are my options? I said, none.
Count your blessings.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody else has got a couple of $1,000, so, yeah, it's,
How expensive is the fair plan?
it is more expensive than a regular company and less expensive than Scottsdale. So you figure on say you're doing a $500,000 home, which is nothing. It's probably gonna run $3,000 or $4,000 for the fair plan, and then another couple $1,000 for the wraparound policy. So
7 to 10 and.
exactly.
For $500,000.
Or what house? Or what?
I say like a $500,000 home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not many of those around.
No,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it, you mentioned the condo market, is that totally different?
condo market's different, and there's a lot of companies who are not even writing the condos, but if it's a condo and it's a rental, Formals will write it, Safeco will write the condos, but again, they won't do it without the auto and the umbrella. So it has to be a package.
How about Berkshire Hathaway?
Berkshire Hathaway, they have the AZ Guard, and they also is dependent upon the area, have access to that. Not inexpensive. The quote that I did for the place out on Denmark was 43,000 with Scottsdale. AZ Guard was $34,000. And he had lots of outbuildings, and they only do 10% of the dwelling amount. They wouldn't increase that, which wasn't good because we had a guest house and a pool and a pump house and other stuff. So we needed much more coverage than say $300,000. But that's the max that they will do.
What's gonna happen with the HOAs like at Sonoma Greens? And I mean, because the structures are all covered by oh my gosh. I wouldn't want to go to that HOA meeting.
I don't have, I need to talk to my farmer's guy to find out how, because they used to be like the big guys for the HOA association stuff, and I don't know what they're doing with that, but I need to check in on that. Yeah.
I guess there's nothing the insurance commissioner can do.
Oh, there's a lot he can do, but so far it's slowly coming through. He needs to start putting through the rate increases so that the insurance companies can get their rates so that they can open back up again and start writing. Because once they get the rate, but that's gonna be 6 months to a year before that all starts trickling down.
So insurance companies can cancel current policies once they are up for renewal.
They can cancel you, they can non-renew you depending.
Fail to
Yeah,
renew.
ask Joe.
If you're in like what they deem. a
Yeah,
fire
Kendra,
area.
yeah. She's just.
Most of the companies had already done that. We saw a big influx of that about a year ago where we got a lot of non-renewals. Most of them have like not, American Modern did a lot of that a year ago. Hartford did it a couple of years ago. So things are starting to settle down a little bit. We're not seeing as many of the non-renewals, but they're still coming in every now and then.
And this has nothing to do with the new CAL FIRE maps or anything.
No.
Wow.
Because they're making their own maps is what you're saying.
They are.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of clients who call and say, well, I just got the map and it shows, and I was like, uh-huh.
Well, yeah, that's the kind
Insurance
of.
The other one I
companies
heard
all
yesterday
come
from two
together
some
and
people.
decide.
We're, have you guys heard of a company called Embers? Have they come and spoken to you yet? So I talked to another realtor yesterday who said that this company Embers had come and done a presentation, and then I talked to a client who had them come out, and I guess they do the fine gauge netting over your vents so that the embers don't get into the house. And they're telling everybody that the insurance companies are giving them discounts for that, and they're not. So I don't know if it's like their selling point or is one
I
that
haven't heard of it, yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think some group like that came to the MLS. meeting at one point.
Yeah.
There's a question on the chat. What's the difference between using a local insurance company versus out-of-state company?
So the out-of-state companies are the surplus lines companies. They're not part of the California Guarantee Fund. And that means that if they went bankrupt, you would lose your money. You're gonna be for a claim. But so you check with your agent who you're working with, because I only work with A-rated companies. I don't work with any B-rated companies, just for that reason.
How do people in Florida get
insurance? It's worse than here. And I have my license in Florida, and it's very tricky to write any home insurance there.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who was there, and he called me to get some information. I'm like,
Yeah, I always wondered about that because of the hurricane.
yeah. It's bad. And the Gulf in Texas as well, very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these retirees on a fixed income. What are they supposed to do?
Good question. Exactly.
That is,
It is.
$10 dollars.
Yeah. Krista, is there anything that the insurance companies you think might come around to, like if you put sprinklers on top of your house or something?
Right.
Or make a
So
tin
far, I
roof?
haven't seen this with the insurance companies. Kind of philosophy on this right now is that as a homeowner, it's your job to do everything you can to protect your home. There are discounts for interior sprinklers. I haven't seen a discount for an exterior sprinkler for roof sprinklers, but for the interior, yes, for alarm systems.
Yeah.
But I have a client who builds concrete homes, and he's a talker. And he loves to get on the phone and tell me all the great attributes of these concrete homes and how the insurance companies are rating them, and they're doing, he's telling me all this. I said, but that's not true. The insurance companies aren't rating them like that. If they're still in this area with a fire line score of 8, whether it's concrete or not, they're not gonna write it. Yes, they'll give you a discount in an area that they're writing in, that's not a frame, as opposed to non-combustible. They'll get a different rate based on that, but it doesn't affect them writing it in an area that's a fire area. Yeah, like top of Fountain Road.
Right. Okay.
Do you think that the insurance companies, it seems like if you were a conspiracy theorist believer, you could almost feel that the insurance companies were, what's the word, not intimidating, but,
In cahoots.
Predator.
well, in
I was a
order to
conspiracy
increase their rates,
theorist.
in order to increase their rates, they say, well, we're not gonna lend it, we're not gonna insure properties unless we can get a rating. So it's a kind of coercion to increase their profit margins. They're saying, well, we're not gonna write any policies unless you let us increase our rates. It seems like there could be coercion there.
I would agree with that. I know that over the 17, 19, and 20 fires, they've really taken a hit and their profit margins are a lot less than they used to be. And I think with the inflation and the cost to build, the losses have gotten higher. And they don't have the rate to substantiate and staying fluid so that they could actually pay the claims.
Yeah.
So they do need the rate in order to continue. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they said, okay, fine, we won't write and for
So
coercion.
you let us increase our profit margin.
Yeah.
Does the costs in California, because they're higher than any place in the country, I think, except New York, have something to do with that? Where it's easier to get insurance in a different state because the cost of rebuilding is less?
Yes, and the fire areas, like down in the desert, the cost to build, my mom lived in Palm Desert forever. And I have friends down there who are realtors, and the cost down there is like $300 a square foot to build. They don't have the fires, they have the earthquakes, but they don't have the fires like we do.
What do you feel as compared to a local cost per square foot?
So minimum is $600 a square foot, and then we have the extended replacement cost on top of that.
Yeah.
It is what it
Is
is.
a lot of this because of, what is it, Prop 103 from like the late 80s, restricting the
Yeah, because,
increases?
well, I've been doing some reading on that, and I think they say that part of it is because of that, because they have to have, there's an oversight committee as to who approves the rate increases. And if, because of that, it has kept it's kind of stymied that from going along, so they're trying to overrule that.
We took this up with the in the Chamber of Commerce meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the chamber is very friendly with Bill Todd,
Senator Dodd.
Yeah. Senator, and he serves on the insurance committee apparently.
Yeah.
So they were going to try to get him here locally to come and speak, answer questions about why the state's not doing more, push things along.
I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll check with
Mark,
Mark over there and see if he's lined something up.
perfect.
I think it's tomorrow.
Oh, yeah,
It is, yeah,
where is he?
at the police station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
This is tomorrow?
yes, there is, yeah. They're trying to get him tomorrow. There's a limit to 30 people and 2 people per brokerage. I'll send you the email. I think they sent it to you.
I haven't seen anything from Mark, but I'll check him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's why I was asking about the fire maps.
Yeah.
He was trying to, because I work with Fire Safe Sonoma a little bit,
Mhm.
and they're just as in the standstill as anyone. Trying to connect everything together. It's almost trying to figure that out to help our clients.
Someone's trying to drill into the bank.
It's like, it's
Let's go.
after the meeting.
Huh? You have no money. Okay, any other questions online there?
No, I don't have
Got it,
anything.
okay. Any questions here?
No.
All right, Chris has got a full calendar, I think.
Yeah,
I bet.
My next appointment.
Then I'm not right.
Free.
It's 11:30.
Line up, do you have business
Yeah.
cards?
That's their words.
For those who don't have your contact info, you
Mhm.
just read us a few business cards and spread them around. You wanted to give me one, I'll read it out so those online can take it down. It's Krista Grant, Granton. And Chris's telephone number is 707-938-4998. 938-4998. Krista at grantoninsurance.com.
Like I said, if you guys get in contact, just give us a call and give you an idea of
Oops.
what your premium's going to look like and if it's writable.
And you said Pamela was good.
I'm
I've
writing
got
in
her,
the
but I'm
chat.
gonna
real quick.
take a picture of it here. and let me-
I've had friends who got a quote, they're in escrow, they got a quote. And then the company went away during the escrow period. The quote doesn't mean anything.
No,
Yeah.
not unless it's
It's
bound.
not binding.
Mm-mm.
Well, even if it's bound, he said it was bound for like a month and a half. You know, they said, oh yeah, we'll write it, but it's only good for a month and a half or something. Yeah. So, what good is that going?
Not
Good for a month and a half.
Yeah, yeah,
Gives you a month to search.
So they got half a month
Yeah, exactly.
insurance and then they cancel.
All right, thank you, Krista.
All right, thanks you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you so much.
Seeing you.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, any things to share, property, so the property updates?
The mobile homes in escrow.
Yes, with,
Yeah.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Kendra.
but you're
Again.
waiting, is that gonna wait?
Oh,
till that's
yeah.
Closing? That we're there,
We're in escrow in a second,
okay,
again.
oh, you are, okay.
That
All right.
$65,000
Yeah.
mobile home.
Gonna get, is it insurable?
I don't know why you bother.
There, that's there.
I was like,
Oh, my God.
Well, you have to at least get personal property and stuff, right?
I'm
Liability.
I'm sure something's available.
Okay. Well, I'm working on the blog. It should be out later this week. On the national basis, June is traditionally the turning point in the housing market across the nation. And you know, going into the summer after June, generally, purchases tend to decelerate. Inventory increases and prices decline through the balance of the summer. That's kind of what we see in a traditional market, nationally. And then we usually, in this area particularly, we've experienced a good fall market, September, October, into November. And then, of course, as you approach Thanksgiving into the holidays, you kind of sliding off again. So we should expect inventory to potentially increase over the next couple of months and sales to decline. Last year, on the national basis, because interest rates had kind of spiked over that period, you know, from the beginning of the year and kind of reached the 7+ level in June or July last year, maybe June. Inventory was started to increase greatly because sales dropped off sharply last year at this time. So last year, inventory was rising 4 to 6% a week. Right now, we're seeing flat inventory, staying the same or just rising slightly. It's we aren't experiencing. I think Deanna and I were talking earlier, rates seem to be in the 7.5 range right now, with a half a point or something like that, a point.
Mhm.
And the buyers seem to be getting used to that and being able to make their purchases with that kind of mortgage rate. And we all did that in ourselves, right? You know, we have all had 7% mortgages at one point or
Right.
more, you know.
9.
So, and I know our daughter, my stepdaughter is in escrow to buy something, and then the rate really doesn't matter. It's what the monthly payment is,
exactly.
you know, and they feel that, okay, if rates drop down the road, you know, a year or two, they'll kind of refinance.
Yeah.
And at least they've locked in purchase at a price that they
They
can
can afford.
qualify for and afford. The pundits make this clear that higher interest rates will create fewer sales and more inventory. Okay. Then we see interest rates rise, we're gonna have fewer sales and more inventory. That makes sense. And lower interest rates will lead to lower inventory. Because more people will buy. So. In mid-June, again, on a national basis, the price of pending sales, all pending sales across the nation. Were 3.6% ahead of the pending price a year ago. Now, pending price today. Is going to be your closing price tomorrow, right? So that's an indicator, a leading indicator of what your closing prices will be. So, that's the people have been expecting that the market would be flat or slightly down price wise in this year, 2023, but it may actually be slightly positive based on this current data.
How do you know the pending price?
That's what the statisticians do.
Yeah, but you don't know the pending price until it closes.
Well, they know what price at the asking prices were at the time it went into escrow.
Oh,
So that's what they're using.
okay, so the last listed price.
Right, the last listing price,
It's basically-
which kind of leads us to the price reduction ratio.
Yeah.
So nationally, 32% of the homes take a price reduction before they sell.
Hmm.
Locally in the region, it's 24%. Now, so 24% take a price reduction. But actually, 49% of the homes sell for less. Close for less than the original asking. So
49.
So you got 100% of your homes on the market, 24% of them take a price reduction before they sell. And 49% of them sell at less than the original asking price. So that means I may have kept my original asking price, but I'm still selling for less than that.
If you want to bid.
So almost 50% of the homes are selling for less than the original asking price. And conversely, 41%, let's see, yeah,
So for over
41% are selling for more. So 41% are selling for more than the asking price, 49% are selling for less, that adds up to 90%, so 10% are selling for the asking price. Okay.
And it has to do with the increase in inventory too, once we get there, right?
The price reduction, yeah, to the higher the price reduction ratio, that would mean there's more inventory, because
And then
you wouldn't
price-
reduce your price if inventory was tight in your home was tight.
Right. Would be
You'd only
only in-
lower your price if you weren't selling at your original price.
Would those numbers indicate a balanced market between buyers and sellers?
It's very market specific.
Yeah,
I talk about these national numbers, but I like to remember that real estate is a very, very local market.
yeah.
So St. Helena right now has a 9.5 month supply of homes in
Wow.
the St. Helena market.
What about
That's
here?
not uncommon in St. Helena over the years.
What about here? What's our,
Here, in Sonoma, we have a 2.6 month supply. Sonoma County has less than that, 1.8 or so. So, but it's really very localized where you are, what your day, a monthly supply will be. Jen, you had a question?
So the 41%, can I just clarify, is selling for asking or over asking?
41% of the homes in our region, this is Sonoma, Napa, Mendocino, are selling, and actually Solano is in that. No, just those three. Sonoma, Napa, Mendocino, 41% are selling in excess of original list price. Which is a
Currently, yeah.
strong number still.
For June, mid-June.
Yeah, this is for June,
Right.
June data, yeah. Multiple offers, have you all, any of you been in multiple offer situations?
not really.
I know Sheila's in one now.
Mm.
actually Sheila's been in 2 recently.
I was in that one.
Yeah, did you get it?
No, but he decided against the property. He's still out there. I'm still working with him to find another property.
Okay. Your buyer.
Yeah.
Decided.
Yeah.
So this, I'm gonna cover this in legal update on Friday, but since you're here, I'll share it with you and you may not be there Friday. But so in one of Sheila's situations, an offer came in below asking price. Seller counted higher, but below asking price also. Buyer came back and said, no, we want to buy it at our original price, counter offer. So we went offer, seller counter offer, buyer counter offer. Seller says, tell them to go away, I don't want to talk to them anymore. Buyer says, okay, I'll accept your seller's counter offer. Signs the seller's counter offer and sends it back. Is it valid?
No,
Anybody say yes?
How long between the
And-
time?
Okay, here's what happened, okay? There
Yes,
was an offer,
Yeah,
yeah,
seller counter offer,
right,
yeah,
buyer counter offer,
right.
seller not in writing, just said, nah, I'm not gonna respond to that.
But how long between he
Doesn't
said,
matter, does it matter?
yeah,
Why?
isn't there a 72 hour, 73 hour, like 3 days to answer back?
Well, there might have been, but see, as soon as the buyer countered back the
Yeah.
seller's counter, it killed the seller's counter. They can't accept the seller's counter anymore,
Right, because it is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
whether it had
Yeah.
expired or not,
They counted it, yeah.
because they made a new offer.
then they
Correct.
have to
New-
count.
So they
can't-
can't now
they just
accept
can't
that
do
offer that they didn't accept the first time.
right.
Now, their agent is saying, no, we're gonna go ahead and buy the property at that price. Well, you know,
Yeah.
they may agree on it or not. But I said, you better have that agent talk to the broker and have them talk to their attorney. Because we just went through this, and as soon as they countered, that killed the price. And in June, that's gonna be a screwy recording.
Mhm.
In June of 2022, there were 46 sales. So the number of sales were same. So what did that create? That created, right now, we have a 2.8 month supply. Oh, this is not 2019. Today, we have a 2.8 month supply. In 2019, we had a 5 month supply of inventory. At the end of June. A number of you were working there, were we running around saying, how are we gonna sell these houses? You know, because we had an excess of inventory, we had a very strong buyer's market. We are in more, as getting back to Eric's question, we're more in a balanced market, 2.8. Is a pretty balanced market. When you have buyers and sellers. The median sales price. And I don't like to use the median sales price in the Sonoma Valley because the sample is kind of small and our range of home values is very large. But the median home price in June 2019 was $892, and today in June was $1,119,000. So that's a 25% increase. So on the other hand, year over year. The average sales price in the valley has gone down 7%. Year over year. So, these are statistics, it's good to know. People are always gonna say, well, how's the, I can't tell you how many times you run into people say, well, how's the real estate market? So you gotta say something, right? So learn a real, if nothing else, saying, boy, it's really localized, it's really different in this market than it is in, say, Santa Rosa. And it's really different here than it is in that. It's just, just have something, in your holster, if you will. Okay. It was interesting, the homes that sold in, there were 26 closings in June here in the Sonoma Valley, and they sold in 35 days. 35 days on market, so that's quick, that's quick.
Yeah.
Now, our days on market, and I put this in the blog, but our days on market is listing date to pending date. And we all know that after a property goes pending, there's some period of time before closing. Could be anywhere from 0 to 30 days. So there 35 days is when it went from listing to pending. Do I have anything else here? Oh, okay. Top quartile, top 25%. I said there are 120 homes in inventory. The top 30 of them start at 3.55 million.
Is that here in the valley?
In the valley,
Right.
yeah. And of those in the high-end market, in the last 12 months, there were 20 sales in that top quartile.
Wow.
In the prior 12 months, there were 34 sales. So that market is down 41% in the number of sales. But if the overall market is down 44%, and this is down 41%, it's kind of coincides, right? It's tracking the market. Pretty well. Okay. Did anyone watch the forms webinar yesterday?
I did.
Comments?
Huh?
Comments?
Well, he covered a lot of things really fast. He's right. We've got to sit down and read those forms, and it'll be. When he sends out those slides, then we'll know where to look.
Okay.
But it was a good webinar and just covered a lot.
Dan?
Yeah, no, I thought it was informative. I mean, it moved quickly. I just, what I did is I took notes on each form, I used the SP, I didn't write the whole form name out, but I can refer to it. So I'm going to start pulling those that I use most commonly.
Yeah.
And take a look at it to,
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing.
Yeah. So, but no, it was definitely, it's amazing.
What did you
the
say?
number of changes.
140 forms for change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all?
Doesn't broker risk management's weekly update have like a cheat sheet? Of
It
all
does.
the-
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
That was sent out a week ago.
Yeah.
They recorded that. It should be on their website now, so I'll check it today because I was traveling yesterday, so I didn't get to watch it, so I need to watch it. But I'll send out the link to the recording, and then everybody can go back and watch it again.
That'd be great.
It's always
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They do go super fast and they
Yeah.
tag team back
Yeah.
and forth,
Important
which
to-
gets a
I
little,
like to
Yeah.
be able to watch
1
it a
minute
couple times.
it's him and then the next
I like
minute it's
the
her
ratings.
and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kept
Okay,
deleting
pause,
buyer
right.
and seller in a couple of places, which got confusing. I think he meant to say seller, but he was saying buyer, so we really kind of have to pay attention.
Okay.
But I think it's important, for me, to pull up the forms and.
Yeah.
and just really, take time and read it in detail.
Mhm.
Yeah, if we're having trouble tracking 144 for changes in forms. What about our clients? Who look at, they buy a house every 7 years. These forms have to be very confusing to them.
So who did the seminar or the speech? Where do we find it? Recording?
I haven't,
You're gonna.
I'll send it out today or tomorrow. Yeah. I spoke to Trudy up in our Ukiah office last night. And she said, well, we listened to him and we wonder why we stay in the business. And, but don't be deterred, you
But
new
they're,
people.
they're attorneys, they're attorneys, so they're, you know, they,
As our older folks leave the
work by the
business,
hour.
there's
Yeah.
plenty of room for you to backfill.
and they want to, they put the fear.
You aren't phased by a few changes in forms, are you?
Well, the scary thing is all the changes have come probably most likely from lawsuits.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what's so frightening about all these. forms.
Well,
That's a
and
lot of
I think,
lawsuits.
I think the California Association of Realtors and National Association of Realtors are lobbying organizations. They're our lobby. And they do things to protect our interest as professional realtors. And one of, it's our interest to stay out of lawsuits. So that's why we don't have a one-page contract anymore. We have a 14-page contract. And things like that. I remember back in the day, I used to go, I was doing commercial real estate in Jack London Square in Oakland. And my partner and I would go to lunch daily. And he'd write out, he says, I could write out a contract here on the napkin. I said, well, yeah, you could, but. And it probably, all you need is in writing, the price, there's only certain characteristics. you
Four,
need in a
four
contract.
elements, isn't it?
Hmm?
Or weren't there four essential elements?
Yeah,
to-
something
To
like,
write on a
yeah.
napkin?
Yeah.
but anyway, don't do it. And speaking of that, you're all gonna be asked at some time, but let me ask you, have any of you ever been asked by a friend, can you just write up the contract for me?
Mhm.
I don't want you to be my realtor, I have the buyer,
Oh,
I have the seller, can you just write up the paperwork? for me?
Right.
Anybody ever get that question?
They tried,
They tried to.
Okay, now. We have forms that say, we aren't representing either party, we have an agency, non-agency disclosure, like, well, okay. I'm gonna write this offer up for between the buyer and seller have gotten together. But I'm representing the seller and not the buyer, so we have the buyer sign the non-agency form, right? But can we write forms for both the buyer and the seller? And still write up a contract? I don't think it's, this is not why we practice as realtors.
Yeah.
To get paid $1,000 or $500 or something to write up contracts for a friend. That's not our business. Our business is to represent people and help them through a transaction.
Yeah.
Not just write forms. And I would say we got a request from one of our agents yesterday, and can I just write up the documents for these people, for a small fee? And we're saying no. I mean, it's not our business. And someone, even though we get them both to sign that non-representation form, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna say, well, you didn't do the forms right.
Yeah.
And one or the other is gonna say, hey, you didn't do the forms right, and you weren't representing me properly, you didn't do it right. So essentially, when we're writing contracts, even though they're the CAR contracts, that we use, and we're writing them without representing either party, I think we're practicing law in that case.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
we can't practice law.
Well, Bill Jansen, and renewing my license made me realize how easy it is to get into an agency relationship without knowing that you're doing it. And so I won't, my neighbor's gonna sell something on his own, and I'm not gonna give him any advice at all, even though he's asking me, and I'm gonna tell him that's the reason why.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very scary.
so more on that later. We'll see how he responds to our saying, no, don't do that.
But
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I do think the changes like on the purchase agreement, listing agreement, the changes that have been made. Make a lot of sense. I think they're just a lot easier to fill out. I mean, you have to study it, but it's also much easier for our clients. When you go over the contract with them, the purchase agreement, I did this the other day. And yeah, the whole format is so much better than it had been in past years.
Yeah, I mean, we were a little afraid of that grid at the beginning,
Yeah,
but it does simplify things and it helps the clients understand
Yeah.
what's going on.
Mhm.
And I mentioned this, I think, in the training a week ago. The contract training, when Jeremy Olson did his, he's the attorney for Norbar. And he did his presentation a couple of weeks ago. He said, be sure you read the statewide buyer and sellers disclosure. Yeah, that's 30 pages or something, I think, 27 pages. Because when in the transaction, the buyer or seller is going to come to you and ask a question. And odds are that it's going to be addressed in that statewide buyer and sellers agreement or disclosure. And the easiest way for us to answer that question is refer them to that document and the paragraph in that document that deals with that issue.
Yeah, and it's right. I've never read every word in that.
Exactly.
And buyers and sellers never read it either, but he made a very good point because everything is covered in that.
Exactly.
document.
And besides that, we have our local area disclosure, right? Our Norbar Sonoma County and our Norbar Napa County and our Norbar Mendocino County disclosure. Read that too, because that has localized information. So when they ask you, well, I should I want arbitration or not? You know, and that when they have a choice in the contract, well, it's addressed in the statewide. Refer them to the statewide and say, here, read this and see what you think. If you have any real questions about it, you can speak to an attorney. But refer them, the safest thing for us to do, and this is a business practice, because when you get called to court, and they say, well, what's your business practice? You say, well, I would give the client the statewide buyers and sellers advisory. And I refer them, when they have a question, I refer them to what's in that advisory. And what's in that advisory has been developed by our lobby to protect us. So you can't say, well, I tell them this, and you make up something. Tell them the same thing every time. Here, it's in the statewide. Here's the paragraph you need to refer to.
Yeah, I know that he had mentioned yesterday that there's a new thing about local ordinances in one of the contracts, and he said that your group should be able to give you a copy of those local ordinances.
He was saying that Norbar's government relations person, so at Norbar, there's a government relations person, and that person can provide that information.
Yeah,
for
because
you.
I think we should have that because there's, say, there's different areas like, between
Yeah.
Santa Rosa, Sonoma, Russian River. I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And now a seller has to say yes or no. And I'd like to be able to, did you figure out, Brian, how to get that information?
No, but I know that on Norbar's page, there's an email address for the government relations person. So you could email them and ask
Oh,
for that.
okay, yeah.
So it's on the
if
Norbar
If you're
page.
selling a property in Cotati and you don't know Cotati has local ordinances. Shoot a note off to the LGR, local government relations person at the board and say, at the association and say, hey, can you tell me if Cotati has any local ordinances?
Yeah.
Send them over.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we just had them.
Yeah, they're there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
used it for out in Russian River area.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where I get it from, okay.
Yeah, we used to try to keep all this stuff in drawer.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
all
it.
these filing cabinets. we
Yeah.
have?
yeah, which was nice. In a way, you just
Went back in the day.
Yeah, we had them up here, and we had them downstairs, remember when we had? 7%.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
You're on the scenario where the friend or past client asks you to represent. To do the transaction for them, to, write it for the buyer, represent the seller, and, it sounded like. Where you were outlining the dangers of representing one of those parties, because clearly you're gonna end up representing both of them. wouldn't it just make sense to be a dual agent and say, I'm gonna represent you both? Because you clearly are gonna do that no matter what happens, you're gonna end up representing both the parties.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think you're better, the worst thing we can be, in terms of legal exposure is a single agent, dual agent.
Yeah.
And that's what you're proposing, is going into that position. So let's at least try to be, even though that party doesn't have an agent, let's at least try to be a single agent with one of the parties until the other party have them sign the form, say, hey, I'm not your agent. If you have any questions, you need to ask someone else.
Then where does the buyer get the disclosure forms and all the forms that the buyer needs? If you're representing the seller only, you're gonna cross the line. You're gonna give advice to the buyer because.
Not advice. You can give them
Well-
forms, but not advice how to fill them out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's a standard of practice. That's what they're always gonna call you in on. What's your standard of practice when you have this situation? A standard of practice is that I'm an agent. Now, you still have the duties of, though that party doesn't have an agent, you still have the duties of fair and honest dealing. You know, there's other agency relationships, but you don't have the fiduciary duty to
but
that
if you're
party.
representing the seller only.
Yeah.
Where's the buyer gonna get the forms to write?
You can give them the forms.
Well, we've been told that if we give them forms, we've created agency.
No, you give them forms, you have them sign the non-agency. Okay, here's the forms that are standard in the industry, but I'm not gonna counsel you about how to fill them out.
Yeah.
I've heard differently. I've heard that if you give them forms, that, you know, you become their agent.
If you
So
give
you're
them
gonna have a
forms,
dual agent no matter what.
not necessarily.
Oh,
No, go ahead and read that non-representation form. That's why it was developed.
yeah.
Okay.
I liked it better when I started in real estate and it was still buyer beware.
Caveat.
Yeah, it made life
Yeah.
a lot easier.
Okay, let's see, I think we have a dance party schedule on the schedule in terms of our social schedule. Anyone want to talk about the dance party?
What day is it?
29th.
The 29th from 6 to 10.
And
Disco.
Disco dance party. Now, well, there might be, it's just a dance.
This is
party.
the secret hand. We don't get in the door.
This is an SOI event, right?
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 Everybody's invited.
Everybody's
Here in
invited.
the office?
It's in the office
On the
here.
dance floor.
We're
right
probably
now.
gonna clear this area and make it a dance area.
Well, this used to be a discotheque.
Used to be.
Yeah, we're bringing back the Cabernet Cafe or whatever it was called.
Cabaret, somebody else.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
There'll be more to follow, an invitation we can send out to our clients, and they just want to come down here and disco and dance.
Come down and this.
It's gonna be fun.
It's a fun part.
Right. Right.
Okay.
There's a
Company,
tape and zip.
company-wide event.
Oh, I-
Anything else? Anyone want to bring up?
But I think,
Yeah, Mhm.
right?
I'm wondering
Let's get
if
Sheila down
anybody
here.
has any
Oh, yeah.
intel
Hold on.
on that lot on York Court. I mean, the price is too high. It's been on the market for over a year. But does anybody?
I had a client look at it pretty closely,
Uh-huh,
and there's some easements across it that really restrict the building area.
okay, that's good to know, because I've got somebody interested
Yeah.
and they said something's gotta be wrong other than the price here.
Yeah, his conclusion was, I mean, he was so fine with the price and everything, but there's some easements, and I don't know exactly what they are. Or utility or something that restricts the building area to an area that not ideal.
Thank you very much.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
So, have them investigated on their own.
No, and I don't know if she's got.
I didn't say that.
I don't know if she's got a pre-insert disclosure package. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to look.
Okay, yeah, that's where you found it, on the title maps. Always look at those color coded title maps.
Having a play day out of this today.
Very helpful.
Loved it.
Deanna, do you have anything quickly?
Yeah, so I was talking to a client the other
Hold on a
day.
second.
I was talking to a client and they are doing a remodel in their house because a lot of us are moving this often. And it's gonna run them $150,000. Well, they started the remodel and they started putting it on their credit cards. Well, when the feds raise the feds funds rate, what they're raising is the short-term interest on credit cards, car loans, refrigerators, etc. And so they didn't want to touch their mortgage because they have 2 7/8. Well, I get it. I wouldn't want to either if I had that. However, when I calculated the amount of money that they're paying interest on their credit cards, because they're 2 of their credit cards were 21%. And we're like, are you kidding? So I looked at all of that for them and I looked at redoing the mortgage at actually the refi it's 8%. And they are still saving $2,500 a month. And when they looked at it that way, there's like, well, that makes more sense because what we're gonna do is after the remodel is done, we'll have the house refinanced when rates come back down and the house is gonna be worth more. So logic plays a big deal right now. You know, when they read the articles in the newspaper and they hear the news and you hear about rates being high, you hear about median price being so high, and everything is doom and gloom, but let's look at their particular scenario and let's sort it out. Because what they're reading is influencing those decisions right now, and they're not good decisions. They're paying way too much money doing it that way, and if you do it my way. So if they're looking at buying solar, they're looking at redoing their kitchen, their refrigerator, their backyards. Those are big ticket items now. And okay, great, let's make your house, look better and add things to it, but let's do smart money. And I'm seeing that a lot of people aren't. So, you got to calm them down. Let's bring it down brass tacks and let's really look at it and let's sort it out. And it makes so much more sense, even though rates are higher right now. Oh, well, that's just where it is. But you're paying 21% on an interest rate right now on a credit card on 100 grand. No.
And
don't
they're
do it.
and they're gonna wait for rates to come down?
Yeah, well, coming down on a credit card is gonna be a whole lot slower.
Oh,
than it
yeah,
is
on a credit
on a
card.
credit-
Yeah.
I thought you got rid
So,
of mortgages.
Well, mortgage, they're gonna refinance their house down the road, but the work is gonna take them a year to get done anyway.
Yeah.
So then.
Could they do a HELOC?
They could do a HELOC, that's possible too.
So a HELOC's gonna be somewhere between 8 and, 10.
8 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
but it has to be bigger money. It can't be the $20,000, bathroom. It has to be the bigger money. And that's where it makes more sense. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I got.
okay, good stuff. All right, anything else? Thank you for those who tuned in on the Zoom. And we'll catch you later.
Yeah. Good meeting.
Thank you.
You create.
Well,
For that this year, I didn't even think.
Big
of
dogs
Maury.
outside.
Oh,
And Dean, you're taking the puppy to get.
oh.
I didn't even think of Maury